Anything wrong with talking to voters?
No, there's nothing wrong with talking.
Well, that's
to
what we're
voters.
doing here today. It's an open mic.
I think that you push a dangerous agenda.
Such as?
Your stance on abortion rights, for example.
Here we go. Okay, so
let me ask a question. What is your name?
Jean.
Jean. And what is your understanding of the current Republican Party's stance on federal intervention in abortion?
Well, I know that they want to bring it back to the states, right?
So it sounds like you do know that the Republican Party's current stance on abortion is they're against a federal ban on abortion.
I do understand.
And we're talking about
that,
a presidential election as the important election that we're talking about here.
I understand that, yes.
Great. So, again, I think this open dialogue is great. I think it's great you're here challenging Charlie, and I think it's great that he's willing to travel campuses across this country to talk to the next generation. We need more conversation. Now, where's the disagreement, though, on content? Because you could criticize style or why you're talking to people or dunk on someone personally, but where do you actually disagree with the substance?
With the...
Hey, welcome back. It's your man, Wise, and today we're diving into yet another masterclass from Vivek Ramaswamy on how to talk to the other side. No one does it better than Vivek. He's just got this incredible way of exposing the indoctrination without being rude or condescending. Just calmly and respectfully dissecting arguments. He listens, engages, but most importantly, he uses facts and reasons to show the flaws in their thinking. Stands his ground without attacking or belittling. That right there is how it's done. But today, I want to talk about another instance that just happened where he absolutely schools a CNN anchor. Vivek took it to the next level, calling out the media's blatant double standards. It's no secret they love to fact check Trump and other Republicans at every turn. But when Kamala Harris is out there claiming that women are bleeding out in parking lots due to abortion bans with zero evidence, they stay silent. But not Vivek. He's calling out their hypocrisy. And let me tell you, it's a thing of beauty. Take a listen.
The kinds of issues I explore in my book, focusing on the substance rather than in the mudslinging that we sometimes see in the media-driven, fueled, social media-fueled political discourse. We need to speak about stone-cold hard truths and have that debate even when it's uncomfortable in the open. That's how I think we're going to save the country. It's a big part of why I wrote this book. And I also think that I'd like to see that standard applied a little more even-handedly across the board. In that same debate, you had Kamala Harris making the claim also repeatedly, many times since, that women are bleeding out in parking lots when there isn't a shred of evidence of a single woman bleeding out in the parking lot of a hospital.
Well, there was actually a woman who died in Georgia who, because there were two women, in fact, one in particular who couldn't receive the care that she needed.
There's no evidence of a woman bleeding out in a parking lot. My point is the kind of rhetoric that's used across the board.
Have you seen evidence of Haitian migrants eating pets? Like, if we're going to talk about evidence, have you seen evidence of Haitian migrants eating pets?
Man, it's funny to see the media just unravel when they're caught in their own hypocrisy. Instead of owning up to it, the anchor immediately scrambles, pivoting to Haitian migrants eating pets. It's their go-to move. Dodge, deflect, and throw irrelevant nonsense to avoid accountability. And funny enough, it turns out there actually might be evidence of that.
And culture is 180 degrees different of what they're used to. And one of the things that I heard that bothered me very much, I've actually had quite a few people contact me here lately, is some pretty horrid things occurring to domesticated animals in the neighborhood. We've had some stuff in the park that, again, they're being taken advantage of for reasons other than, and if you shake your head, Brian.
No. I asked me if there was proof. I just don't have proof of it.
I have the same thing. People that have confided in me have asked me for anonymity. I can't give their names up.
I mean, we haven't seen the proof that you're telling me, and I've heard about it too.
Yeah.
Here we have a city manager from Ohio back in March talking about complaints of migrants eating pets, which, okay, let's say this is just hearsay as well. No hard evidence yet. Fine. But when the left hears of someone allegedly bleeding out in a parking lot, suddenly it has to be true and it's a fact. The media jumps all over it, yet when a city manager comes forward and says, hey, there might actually be something going on with these migrants, it's immediately dismissed as right-wing conspiracy theories. But let's get back to Vivek.
On to Springfield, I didn't see that evidence, but what I will tell you is I'm bringing that up because you brought up the Haitian migrant point. There are residents in the community that have pointed to that. There isn't even that level of a shred of evidence to support a single woman in the United States bleeding out in a parking lot. Yet that's been a repeated claim made by Kamala Harris. So I think when we're getting into fact-checking, I think we should apply the same standards 360 degrees. And I think we should not use Kamala Harris's quote there to sidestep a debate about abortion policy, just as we shouldn't use some other quote as an excuse to sidestep a debate about immigration policy. And a core thesis of this book is let's not use the fringe words that somebody on either side might say, and let's focus on the actual content of the debate, even when we disagree most. I think that's going to be a key step to reviving our country. And the beauty of America is we can disagree badly, and I believe still get together at the dinner table at the end of it. That's the America I miss when I grew up not that far from Springfield myself. And I think that's the America I'd like to see us revive, and that was a core motive for me writing the book that we're releasing today.
Yeah, so Vivek goes to Springfield, talks to actual people on the ground, and the anchor tries to hit him with the usual nonsense, blaming Republicans for, God forbid, talking about immigration. And yeah, he's not having it at all. He makes it crystal clear that the real problem here isn't the migrants, but the government's broken policies letting them flood into small towns like Springfield, Ohio.
The truth of the matter is, as recently as 3 months ago, or even 3 weeks ago, we as a country weren't really talking about the kinds of issues confronting communities like Springfield in Ohio, a town that's really important to me and to the country. And so what I do think we need more of is focusing on that actual substance. There are people struggling in that community, including not least of whom are even many people who are, I believe, used as political pawns, as migrants in this game. And so I think the more open debate we're able to have on the substance and the less we're able to fixate on airlifting some particular quote, the better off we're going to be in our discourse.
Well, do you think that this debate's been good for Springfield, Ohio, though? I mean, the schools have been closed. There have been bomb threats. Every day, denizens of the place, because of the focus, the national political focus on them, but when this is a group of legal migrants, these Haitians have come here legally. I mean, the Republican governor of Ohio has said as much and said they're taking jobs that businesses in that community needed to be filled.
Look, I went and met with many of those Haitian community leaders during that trip myself. I think it's important to get all perspectives. What I will say is this. I think this debate about immigration is in the long run going to be a good thing for the country. We can't sweep under the rug. In a town of 50,000 people, you had an influx of 20,000 Haitian migrants to a community that was unprepared to actually integrate them, migrants who were unprepared to integrate themselves. That's a tough conversation, but it's one that we actually need to be having in this country, and we weren't before. So one of the things I talk about in this book is how do we actually get to solutions on this issue? People skirt around this issue of legal immigration. I'll tell you what I told those Haitian migrants. It was a tough exchange, but one where we actually came out stronger for it. I said it's my view that if anybody enters this country, the United States generally should not admit somebody who's going to be a client of the welfare state, somebody who's going to be a recipient of government assistance. I don't think the U.S. policy should admit those immigrants, legally or not, into the United States of America. And in that exchange, the people on the other side, they thought about it, and they said, you know what, that's a fair policy. That's constructive. And I think
well,
that
a lot of these migrants came for jobs,
policy.
right? I mean, people that are working in the manufacturing roles in the city of Springfield, which is why they're there, are not what you just described there.
Well, actually, I respectfully disagree. When you look at the rates of usage of welfare, Medicaid, et cetera, I think it's a reasonable immigration policy for the U.S. to set that if you're going to come to this country, we want people who are able to speak the English language that's broadly used in the United States and able to stand independently without relying on government assistance or the welfare state. That's the kind of debate we need to be having. If people believe that we should admit migrants who are going to be reliant on Medicaid or welfare, then they could represent that view. But we haven't been having that debate today. Those are the kinds of issues I explore in my book, focusing on the substance rather than in the mudslinging that we sometimes see in the media-driven, social media-fueled political discourse. We need to speak about stone-cold hard truths and have that debate even when it's uncomfortable in the open.
Good luck going head-to-head with Vivek. He is absolutely spot on, saying it's insane to bring 20,000 migrants into a town of 50,000 and act like it's fine. Of course, CNN tried to spin it by claiming these Haitians are legal, but Vivek cuts right through that. The issue isn't their legality. It's the fact that they need to contribute, not drain resources. He highlights how the temporary protected status for Haitians or for Haitian migrants was supposed to be just that, temporary. Now it feels like a permanent open door policy which is unsustainable for America. And who does this hurt the most? Not the elites in Martha Vineyard or those that live in those gated communities. They kick migrants out as soon as they get there. The real impact is on average Americans, especially those in minority communities that the left claims to support. Vivek also schools her on race, pointing out how Democrats use it to divide us, pushing a race-based narrative while undermining our communities. It's time to call this mess out.
I wrote a book about 3 to 4 years ago called Woke Inc., predicting exactly this trend. And that's my concern with race-conscious policies. There is no better way to create racial animus in this country than to take something else of value from somebody else based on the color of their skin. That's a prediction I made in my first book several years ago, and I'm sad to say that has come to transpire. And that man and I had a great exchange. I also think we need more of that in this country. We had several hundred people come out, about 2,000 people RSVP for that event in Springfield, which tells me people across this country are hungry to be heard. And that's how we get our country back, through open debate, free speech, and open dialogue. And that's the core thesis of the book that I'm putting out today.
So, Mr. Ramaswamy, I understand you're making this argument about raising race consciousness from the left, and that's one way you put it in your book. But I do want to kind of circle back to some of the things that we're hearing from your party, from your Republican presidential nominee who has been traveling, for example, with Laura Loomer, who wrote on Twitter, quote, "If Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center." Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said that that was racist. Do you agree with her?
Look, I'm against identity politics in all of its forms, whether it comes from the left or from the right. I've been crystal clear on that. I think we need to revive our shared American identity. That being said, I do think we've gotten into a bad habit where Donald Trump says some word, or a supporter of Donald Trump says some word, that gets airlifted out and becomes the story.
Exactly. It didn't have to be this way, but the grifters in politics and the media keep stirring the pot to maintain the race narrative and their power. Most people are ready to move on, but the media thrives on division. Take that CNN anchor, for instance. Her focus on who Trump associates with is really getting old. Instead of discussing real issues and policies, they obsess over the drama. Think about it for a second. How many times have leftists called for Trump's removal or compared him to Hitler? They label half the country as deplorables, yet they never tie Kamala to that rhetoric. Remember when Madonna talked about blowing up the White House, or Johnny Depp joked about assassinating a president? Did CNN ever challenge Democrats on those comments? Of course not. The double standards are glaring, and people are just getting really fed up with it. But Vivek isn't letting them off the hook. He's redirecting the conversation to what truly matters, which is policies that help Americans. And it's refreshing to see. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, drop me a comment. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Consider joining the ARP family. I appreciate each person that has joined the ARP family thus far. God bless you all. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up, and we'll catch up with you all next time. Peace.